U.S. Attorney Jeff Sessions has announced the creation of a religious liberty task force charged with defending the rights of the faithful to say no to creeping atheism and, allegedly, Islam. Now, he was speaking at Monday's Religious Liberty Summit. Sessions said that he had created a task force that would help implement religious liberty to guide the Justice Department, which was issued in last October. Now, when he was speaking about religious liberty, mainly he was speaking about perceived persecution that Christians have faced in the United States. There are many more groups much more worthy of protection, like every other one. But we really should not be, persuaded by his words. This is about trying to entrench the rights of Christianity specifically to refuse to accommodate people with views that go against what their Bible very often doesn't even mention. He said, "We've seen nuns ordered to buy contraceptives. We've seen U.S. senators ask judicial and executive branch nominees about dogma, even though the Constitution explicitly forbids a religious test for public office. We've all seen the ordeal faced so bravely by Jack Phillips." As you recall, Jack Phillips is the man who faced down the terrible burden of having to make a gay wedding cake, and has recently just won an appeal to that decision that he does not have to do so, and that whole issue has very wide-reaching consequences for civil rights matters. Now, we should not be fooled in any way, shape, or form, given Jeff Sessions' connection to fundamentalist Christianity, that this is all about entrenching Christian rights within a government that was never intended to have them to begin with, and that was intended to be founded away from that kind of idea, hence the whole split with England that led to the colonization of the United States, or what became the United States to begin with. We should not be under any illusions. This is about jackboot Christianity, and frankly, no one is fooled by this whatsoever. Now, religious freedoms are guaranteed under the First Amendment of the Constitution, but courts across the country have encountered problems balancing this protection with anti-discrimination laws, and in lies the actual problem. Freedoms, or rights, can ultimately become contradictory. They don't just all follow the same flow where everything works perfectly, which seems to be lost on much of the ANCAP and libertarian viewpoints, where I can do whatever I want and nobody has the right to tell me not to. My right to enjoy my property is in conflict with the right of my neighbor to blare his music as loud as possible. That's why we have systems of law and government to mediate things like this, although this is a very small and relatively benign example, but it certainly serves the illustration that freedoms are ultimately contradictory. Now, I really don't see anywhere in the Bible, and this I'm coming as someone who went to Catholic school, who studied the Bible as a part of his education for more than 10 years, that there's nothing really in the Bible that says you can't serve gay people. There's some vague words about being anti-gay, but there's nothing really in there that says anything about not selling cakes to gay people. I mean, this is really a modern interpretation of very, very old and outdated rules that were handed down by, well, let's face it, people who were pretending to speak for God. So we do have a very clear contradiction here. Where does religious right end where civil rights begin? Essentially, you're really going to have to make a decision here. What's it going to be? The religious right to discriminate, or the right of particular groups not to be discriminated against? One of these positions is going forward and progressing as a society. The other one will take us backward into a more Dark Ages kind of mentality. I think you know which one we really should pick. It's pretty obvious at this point that the rights of oppressed groups do come before the right to oppress them. But we also face another really interesting situation. The rights of a businessman to refuse service to someone based on any kind of stupid prejudice that they may have. Do they have a right not to serve people based on their prejudice? So what happens here? Who wins? Does the property right supersede that of human rights? Well, this is kind of a big problem in capitalism because property rights do come before human rights. That's the whole basis of capitalism itself, private property and the right to do with your private property as you wish. And this does supersede human rights. You probably won't see much of a resolution of this kind of problem inside of capitalism. It's probably not going to happen. This is one of those things that shows us why we have to transcend beyond a system of capital accumulation, why we have to, in order to forward human rights, go beyond capitalism itself. So, if we could get around to that whole abolishing capitalism thing, that would be great, because it would really help out these marginalized groups.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.